What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to go over my recent trip with Team USA Para to their World Championships in the United Arab Emirates and kind of my experience and how it all went. So let's get started.
We're on the ground there in Frankfurt. We'll be first.
So first off, initially I had no idea this was even a thing in terms of support staff going to these events. I really hadn't been involved with anything para related. I would see them occasionally at matches and stuff, but overall really didn't know anything about the para side. And so since the training center here in the Springs opened back up, I've been going there a lot more often, days off, all that, so a lot of staff know me now. And one day I was training and they were looking for people to go with the team to Para World Championships as support staff, mainly as like baggage carriers and loaders. So for me, it actually overlapped with a match, the Dixie Double in Alabama, that I was already planning on going to. So I'd already had vacation scheduled for that time period off. And the way the trip was arranged, I actually only had to take another like 2 days off in order to go on this trip. So I decided to take the opportunity and go with the para team to United Arab Emirates. So we were told about 3 weeks before we were due to leave that who was going on the trip. So I was lucky enough to be selected as a support staff member to go. In that 3 weeks, I had a lot to do, making sure all my vacation got approved, which I'd found out the week before that I might be going, so I'd already cleared it with my boss, which was super cool. I said to get all that submitted, then get everything extra that I needed to order because I didn't have any international chargers. So the 3 weeks leading up to leaving was pretty hectic for me. I was trying to train as much as I could because I was not taking my equipment with me because I wasn't shooting, so I couldn't take my stuff with me because of all the gun permits and stuff anyway. So I was training super hard at those 3 weeks leading up to leaving because I knew I would have a basically solid 2-week break of no shooting. We get to Denver and load on the plane, and apparently the fuel pumps in the plane weren't working. So they deboarded and we had a 4-hour delay for that flight, and we were flying directly from Denver to Frankfurt, Germany. So that was like almost a 10-hour flight. And initially we had like a 5-hour layover in Frankfurt, but by the time we landed, that plane we were supposed to be on was boarded and getting ready to leave. So we missed our connection, and so when our coach called before we even left Denver and had rebooked us on flights for later that day on a different carrier. And so we wait the few hours for that carrier to open up, and then they're like, you can't fly with us with firearms because you didn't do our permit policies the 3 to 5 days it takes to apply for them. So we end up having to rebook again on a flight, basically the same flight we were supposed to be on that day, the next day. So we ended up staying overnight in Frankfurt. By that time, we were all exhausted, tired, basically crashed out in the hotel and then went back to the airport the next day. Couldn't get any of the luggage or anything from the airline because we didn't have gun permits for Germany, so there was no way for us to get the firearms off. And if we had tried to get other luggage off, good chance those would have come off too. So we just played it safe, did not get any of the checked luggage. Luckily, I had packed basic toiletries and a change of clothes in my carry-on, which I definitely advise everyone doing. So I was able to take a shower in the morning and change clothes and be good for the rest of the travel day. The next day, which was still pretty long, we had a 6.5 hour flight from Frankfurt to Dubai, and then we had to wait in Dubai airport for another probably almost 2 hours because they were busing us from Dubai to Elaine, which is about a 2-hour bus ride, and we were waiting on the Germans or the Swiss equipment to show up. So we were waiting on them, and then had to get everything firearms checked by the police there. So their policy is the police will open everything, verify all the serial numbers with the gun permits, and then the ammo, the amount of ammo you have, and then the police take your firearms and your ammo from the airport and transport it to the range in Elaine, where it is put in firearm storage area. So we basically saw all the firearms at the airport and then didn't see them again until the next day when we got to the range. So get all that clear, and then get on the bus and have the 2+ hour drive to Elaine. And then the first hotel we stop at, the driver thought was our hotel. It wasn't our hotel, it was like the Swiss team's hotel. And then we had to figure out our hotel and get dropped off there. So it was about just before 6 a.m. local time by the time we got to the hotel. So, and we're a whole day late. So we actually had equipment control as a country at 4 p.m. that day. So most of us got checked in and went and slept for a few hours, and then headed to the range to help with equipment control and also open practice. So at that point, I thought I had set my alarm for like 11:30 a.m. Apparently I set it for 11:30 p.m. because I woke up at like 12:15 p.m. in the afternoon. So I went and got dressed real fast and got on the bus to the range so that I could go help out with equipment control. So the range setup overall was pretty nice. I'm going to do a more in detail video of the range itself later, but the range itself is nice. It is kind of small compared to ranges I'm used to. If you know the Old Mill range in Georgia, it's probably similar size to that, except it also has outdoor 50 meter and 25 meter on like the opposite side of the range. So there's only, I think it was like 40 points in air, and then like 40 points in small bore for 50 meter. I'm not sure how many were on the other side where the finals hall were, but it was a really nice facility with Seuss targets, and they had it set up with ramps and stuff so all the wheelchair athletes could get everywhere they needed to. Some of the access points were kind of a long way for them, which was a little bit frustrating for some people because it's just like you had to go make this big old loop to get to the 50 meter range. But overall, nice facility. The range itself wasn't big enough to have a space to set up on the range. So if, say, you were shooting like Relay 2, there really wasn't enough room for you to bring your equipment in until Relay 1 finished. There was a little bit of room in the stands, but not enough for everyone to get ready. So what they did was they put in this big tent outside, and they squared off blocks of space for each country to put equipment bags and have setup space, and also one of the walls was designated as a dry fire area. So it was a massive tent with like chandelier lights in it, which was kind of cool. They also did have air conditioning, although it did just have an open door, so it wasn't necessarily the most efficient air conditioning, but at least it was something. Pretty much the entire time we were there, it was like 95 to 97 degrees, so it was hot, especially walking from the tent to the range. Even though it wasn't that far, still was hot. And then to where they set up lunches, that was a pretty decent walk to get over there, so it was warm. And then the air range had pretty decent air conditioning. Once you got on the Smallbore, they had to open up the doors to get 50 meter and 25 meter, so that side of the range really heated up. But overall, the setup wasn't terrible. We were allowed to get the rifles and pistols from the armory and then bring them over to the tent to set up, so we didn't have to set up the rifles and pistols on the line. We had a little bit of space and could do it a little bit at our own leisure rather than like rushing it last minute, which was nice. But it was kind of annoying to drag all the rifle cases and the pistol cases from the basically backside of the air range all the way over to the tent to get everything set up, and then back when we were done. But overall, I definitely worked my ass off in pretty much every single day, dragging everybody's stuff around, and then also loading for SH2s. I'm primarily loaded for Jazz in her standing air match, and then in her small bore prone match, which was a good experience. I had only had like one short session of loading like a week before we left, just to like kind of understand it and practice it. It's definitely the hardest part of being a loader when you're also a shooter, is not being able to talk to the person you're loading for. So the rules, like, the shooter can talk to you because you can adjust their sights, or like or if they want you to adjust a piece of equipment, you can do that. But if I want to talk to them, I have to like ask the range officer to talk to them as like a coach, and then tell them when I'm done, and then go back to loading mode. So I had to basically keep my mouth shut for the most part, which was kind of hard when it was like I want to like suggest certain things. So that was definitely hard to get used to, but overall, things went okay for loading. It was nice because Jazz has a really set process, so it was easier for me to pick that up and be able to load it the way she wanted me to, and hopefully I didn't mess her up too bad. But that was my main job those 2 days, was loading, but also like still grabbing equipment and helping as I needed to. So I was super busy pretty much every day. I was on the 7:30 or 8:30 bus pretty much every day, and then came back on like the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock bus every day. So I was working pretty much the entire time, making sure everybody had what they needed and grabbing things as people needed them. So I was able to go to opening ceremonies, which was really cool. It was at some forts in kind of like the middle of the lane. It was really cool because they had, when they went through the parade of countries that were participating, they projected them up on one of the sides of the fort, which was really cool. They had a lot of cultural like presentations and dances. One of the, I think, Sheik princes, if I'm not mistaken, showed up, although very late. And of course we couldn't eat until he got there. So it was supposed to be over by 8, but we actually didn't start eating till like 8:20 or something. And then everyone ate real quick and then left. But it was really cool. It was really nice, historic site to be at. And we also got some really cool scarves, their own versions of their national flag in a scarf form. So that was really cool. that we all got one of these as a memento for the trip, which was nice because I was so busy the entire time we were there that I actually didn't get to go do any sort of like sightseeing or souvenir shopping or anything like that. So I basically just have the scarf, my credentials, and some of the clothes I was given to represent the US, which I get to keep. So like I said, I was one of the first groups to come back with a couple of the pistol shooters. Luckily, the trip back went way smoother than the trip out. We were not late, but basically we got to the airport, checked in everything, which that check-in was the slowest check-in I have ever had. And then basically went through security, all that, walked to the gates, and they were boarding within like 15 minutes. So, and because it's an international flight, they like check your passport and put you in a separate like terminal area that I guess I probably could have asked if I could have gone back out of to go like look through the airport a little bit, but I also didn't know how fast we were going to board, so I didn't want to risk missing the flight. But I started a timer because I really wanted to know how long it was going to take us to get home. So I started a timer when we left the hotel in Elaine. It was a 2-hour drive to Dubai airport, and then like a 6-hour flight from Dubai to Frankfurt, and then I don't remember how long our layover in Frankfurt was. It wasn't that long. And then from Frankfurt to Denver, and then 2 of us came back from Denver to the Springs. By the time I got back to the Springs, it had been 31 hours to get home, which I would never have thought it was like that long, but the amount of, it was 10 hours of time zones plus like 17 hours of flights. It's like just insane that it would actually take that long. It explains why I was so exhausted, because we got back Friday afternoon, and then I was probably awake for like 3 hours on Saturday. I literally crashed out. So spent the next couple of days just trying to get back on the right time zone, and it's probably taking me about a week and a half to actually get fully back on the right time zone. But luckily it was a lot smoother, because if we had the same problem that we had coming out, that would have been a miserable trip. So overall, I'm really happy I got to go on this trip, experience the atmosphere of an international match and some of the things that can go wrong, especially with travel, and how different countries handle firearms, working with different people, being able to help out wherever I could. So overall, I'm really, really happy that I was able to do this. I might try to do some next year as well, depending on how the Paris schedule works out with my open schedule, because my vacation priorities are for my matches that can help me progress and hopefully make the national team on the open side. So we'll see if I have any extra vacation or things that don't overlap, and maybe I'll go on another trip with the para team as a support staff. So thank you for watching. If you enjoy following my journey, please like and subscribe. Also, if you have any questions about this trip, please let me know down below and I'll answer them as soon as possible. And hope you have a good